Welcome to another Know Your Foe this week. I got Mountaineer Paul coming from, by God, West Virginia. Paul, thank you so much for joining me today.
I appreciate you for having me on, man. John Kurtz, of all people, looked this up.
John Kurtz, K-State. Listen, I went to K-State for a year. The people out there are fantastic. They're some of the nicest people you could ever meet. But you know what's so funny is I have heard the exact same thing about West Virginia people. Can you confirm that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's there's a lot of Southern qualities to West Virginians. Even though it's not technically Southern, it's literally right there. Like, I live on the border of Kentucky,
Okay.
So there's a lot of Southern hospitality / qualities to West Virginians. People where I live don't lock their cars, like that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. Oh, listen, I'm looking forward to the opportunity to go out there. Hopefully the Wildcats will return the trip next year and go out there. And I think that would be an experience unlike any other for sure, because I've heard so many great things about West Virginia. What I haven't heard great things about is both of our teams. Both of our teams have been – listen, I think before the season, West Virginia was kind of that trendy pick to surprise people in the Big 12, and it just has not unfolded like that. I think it started off obviously with Penn State and kind of falling apart there in the second half in the weather delay. And then obviously you fast forward to Pittsburgh, which it looked like, I think if you guys win Pittsburgh, that kind of changes the momentum of the season as well.
Absolutely.
But again, falling apart in that fourth quarter and giving it up. Tough losses. Arizona on the flip side. They haven't really been competitive in a lot of these games in terms of, high-level competition, Utah being the only one. But now we're starting to see Utah kind of falter off too, and maybe they weren't as good as everybody thought they were going to be. When you look at this matchup and really where the status of West Virginia coming into it, how are you feeling about this squad?
Well, West Virginia was a 9-4 team last year, similar to you guys, in that a lot of success, had success in the bowl game against a pretty good team in North Carolina. You guys beat a much better team. And so obviously with Garrett Green, who is as dangerous as they come at quarterback, returning, 2 running backs, you had a 3-headed monster. We led the Power 4 in rushing last year, a 3-headed monster of runners that all ran for over 700 yards last year. Then you couple the fact that Zach Frazier obviously may be the best center in the NFL through 4 or 5 games. He went to the Steelers, was drafted in the second round. He was really the only loss on the offensive line. And so that entire offensive line that led the Power 4 in rushing last year returned almost intact. Wyatt Milam on the left side hadn't given up a sack in 3 years, and that continues to now. So we felt really good about being able to lean on that. What we didn't realize is we don't have any McMillans. We have our skills players on the outside, just they're average. And Garrett Green is not the kind of quarterback that you can have average skill talent with.
Well, yeah, I would love to reemphasize or support your claim to T-Mac. And it's not any fault of his own technically, but listen, Tetairoa McMillan is one of the best receivers in college football. However, if you've watched this team play, they have not been able to even come close to maximizing his potential or his talent on the field in a variety of different ways. And I'll say that because in the first game, 10 catches, over 300 yards receiving, 4 touchdowns. Since then, he has averaged 6 catches and less than 80 yards a game, and he hasn't scored a single touchdown since. And it's problematic, right? And I think when you're looking at this matchup, Arizona's defense is completely obliterated by injury. So you have to rely on high-level offense, and with Noah Fafita throwing 10 picks already this season and only 9 touchdowns, it is cause for concern. But tell me why Arizona fans should either be optimistic about this matchup, and tell me why they should be pessimistic about this matchup.
Yeah, the reason I think they should be optimistic is because the turmoil surrounding West Virginia's program right now. It's unbelievable. It's at an all-time high. You think about what West Virginia is historically as a program, and we don't fancy ourselves to be Penn State or anything like that, or Ohio State or anything like that. But
by the way, before you go on, I do want to say my favorite college quarterback of all time. The reason why I love college football to start, Major Harris.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you realize the history, and
Oh yeah,
West Virginia is the winningest team in college football history that's never won a chip. Top 15 all time in both sports, basketball and football, in wins. We won several BCS games under Pat White and those boys, which are the version which would be playoff games now. And so we felt good coming into the Big 12, not realizing that travel that everybody's realizing sucks. We had to do for 10 years alone, and we just hadn't adjusted well. So, and I think that's played a factor in every year. So for this year, the turmoil, and it's been 6 years of Neil Brown, was what I was getting to, of not being ranked. That's the first time it's ever happened in our history. So we're truly not only at an all-time low, probably within this season, but also as a program right now. And it's uncharted waters for us. So Nick Saban was in town Tuesday. He met with Ren Baker. He met with Joe Manchin. He's obviously a West Virginia guy from the state of West Virginia. Got his coaching start at West Virginia. A lot of people's ears are perked up and want Neil Brown out of there, whether it's for Jimbo or Nick or whoever. People want Neil Brown out. And it's the season most fans have given up on, only at 3-4.
Wow. Well, I want, again, I feel like these two programs kind of are mirroring right now each other, because when you look at Arizona and Brent Brennan, first-year coach from San Jose State, and everything coming off of it, going into this season from Jed Fish's tenure now, the expectations are very high, but they have not been met, not even come close.
Right.
And really, I think the biggest thing, and maybe you guys feel the same way, it just feels like there is not a lot of continuity. There's not a lot of connectivity across the board. As much as the vibes are good behind the scenes and players are optimistic and they're still positive, it doesn't translate to on the field success. And it's been very problematic. And obviously tons of people are calling for Brent Brennan to get fired and all this other stuff. That's whatever. I don't believe he should be fired because it's year one. It's going to be a process, right? And you can't really get a good feel.
To do.
Yeah, you can't get a good feel of a coach until about year 2 or 3, right?
Not even his players.
No, not at all. So when you're looking at this matchup from a West Virginia standpoint, West Virginia wins this game if they blank.
Do what they're probably going to be able to do in this game is run the ball. They still got an elite offensive line. They're literally on the Joe Moore Award watch list, even though the team hasn't won a lot of games, because they can run the ball. They've been able to run the ball on anybody that played. That doesn't change. It's just that we have literally no passing attack at all to complement that, and so we get beat by the numbers. People put 9, sometimes even 10 in the box. You saw against Iowa State. And that's kind of been our kryptonite, because Garrett Green, if he was 100% healthy, I have no doubts that would be fine. Another thing to watch out for is we don't even know if he's going to play. So that's one big probably thing we should have let off with. But he got hurt last week. We think it was an upper head injury. Wyatt Milam on the left side, I don't think he's going to play. And then our most disruptive player up front on defense, TJ Jackson, may not play either in this game. So you guys are going to catch us at our true worst. And I don't know what Arizona, what you fancy them as a run defense, but West Virginia has really a lot of quality offensive linemen. So they're not going to drop off a lot in the run game. So if you can stop that, you guys have got a really good chance to win the game.
Arizona was surprisingly pretty good last week against Colorado in the run game. They were able to hold up fairly well. It's just, the passing game and really the lack of execution on offense. And I think that, let's go back to this point. I think offensively, Arizona is still relatively healthy compared to their defense for sure. West Virginia still relatively healthy on offense. And I think it's going to come down to offense versus offense. Who's going to be the better offense in this game? Because both defenses, as you alluded to, are riddled with injury. So it's just a fascinating matchup. And I said last week that the winner of that Colorado-Arizona game was going to feel really, really good about themselves and really set themselves up for a potential run to the Big 12 championship game. This is not that scenario for either team. I think they can basically write off that any expectation. Both teams coming in at 3-4. West Virginia has lost 3 out of the last 4. Arizona's lost 4 out of the last 5, and it's just kind of all over the place. But I do think the loser of this game, which would move them to 3-5, they could basically all but forget about a bowl berth, in my estimation.
If West Virginia loses this game, Neil Brown may not make it to the next game. That's how crazy things are right now. West Virginia's never made a mid-season coaching change in the program history. Personally, I don't look for that to happen. But there is a scenario that if this game gets out of hand, as far as Arizona, maybe 2-3 score win, where there's a mini bye week for West Virginia coming up, there could be some major changes because we're year 6 into this. Obviously, Neil Brown is 3-17 against ranked opponents. Lost 8 in a row to ranked opponents. I mean, we're talking about some serious numbers here that you just can't defend anymore, even coming off a 9-win season, and it's just the 3 best wins. The best of those is a 7-win football team of those 3 ranked wins. They were ranked at the time, didn't end the season ranked. So it's truly been the definition of middling, the definition of mediocre. He beats who we're supposed to beat, and we lose who we're supposed to lose to. And can't explain why, because it's not really a talent issue. So we're just, it's one of those things where it hasn't resonated on the field. Neil Brown gets everything else right. Culture, from a team concept of everything is great with him. Families, how he treats recruits. You can't. I went to Troy and tried to find a reporter or any fan or anybody to say anything bad about him. Couldn't find anything. He gets all that right. So it's a true conundrum.
Yeah. I think that's always a tough position, right? When people genuinely like the person and they're rooting for them. But at the end of the day, wins and losses are all that really matters. And when you don't live up to those expectations, then change is afoot. You did mention it before we do go. You did mention a little bit ago about Pat White and the Steve Slayton days back in the Rich Rod era. How much do you guys love or resent Rich Rodriguez? I don't really know what the feeling is in West Virginia about him.
It's mixed. It's very mixed. I love him personally. I still do. I would actually be a fan of him over Jimbo for sure, as far as the next coach, if that happens.
Man, if Rich Rod came back to West Virginia, boy.
I think he just fits us in what we do there. Obviously the run we had is unprecedented. You can't find a 7-year run like he had with us, where you win 3 BCS bowl wins, 4 double-digit win seasons, and should have been 4. He had a great run. Obviously, the way things ended off, like you're 33-point favorites in a game against your arch rival. If you win that game, you play in the national championship game against LSU, and you crap the bed, for lack of a better term. And Pat White had a broken thumb that day. Whispers of Rich Rod to Michigan were happening, and he did go to Michigan. And so it's unfortunate. Pat McAfee missed 2 field goals that day that he got death threats over.
Damn it, Pat.
So long for him to come back to the fan base.
Yeah, I still haven't seen him recover. I mean, his life has just been utter devastation since then.
Well, he's done okay for himself. And actually, he's finally gotten back involved in the program this past offseason. So it was great to see. He actually donated $1 million to the trust just at the beginning of the year when we poured Penn State. So he's back involved, and we have a feeling he's going to have a heavy hand in the next coach, or at least try to help if that happens.
I mean, I'll tell you what, you did mention Nick Saban a little bit ago, and I don't think he's going to come back. But if there was anybody that could convince Nick Saban, who is sitting next to him just about every Saturday, I mean, it would be Pat McAfee. I would say that.
It would be Colorado levels of entertaining. I can say that, I think, and you think about, I've already dreamt about this, obviously. And for those of you out there, I don't think it's going to happen, but I did a whole show on it yesterday because he was in West Virginia and he met with our athletic director. And my whole premise was he had to at least ask, right? I mean, you met Joe Manchin and Ren Baker last night. Ren Baker, you're a fool if you didn't at least say, hey, Nick, things ain't exactly going well here right now. You think you might be interested? So, and if it happened, can you imagine the views and the ratings the Colorado-West Virginia game next year would get with Deion and Nick Saban?
Well, that's if Deion sticks around.
That's if Deion sticks around. That's a great point.
Because Florida State ain't looking too hot right about now. And
he's got to go, doesn't he?
Prime is, in prime position to take over that program if they allow him to. And so I don't want to start any war, Buffs fans that are watching this, because I know how angry you guys get about the potential of Deion leaving. But Mountaineer Paul, I do appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. Follow him at Locked On Mountaineers, Locked On West Virginia, or Locked On Mountaineers?
Locked On West Virginia.
There you go. And then tell everybody your Twitter handle.
At Paul Mountaineer.
There you go. Until next time, folks, that's Know Your Foe for this week. Make sure you follow the AZ Wildcats podcast, and make sure you come back for the post game on Saturday afternoon. Until next time, peace.
We all silly like the mayor.